WCSM's General Store recorded at 70X7 Studio. WCSM is brought to you by Chad's Express Lube and Car Care Center. Christine Flynn, your local Farmers Insurance agent. For Good Reasons Roofing, your local hometown roofing specialist. And by Sanders Insurance, your local independent insurance experts. And now, WCSM's crew.
Good Friday afternoon to you, and welcome to WCSM's General Store from the 70X7 studio. Don't forget to forgive 70 times 7. And we'd like to thank our producers. We'd like to thank Mike and Carter. Give them a big thumbs up. Okay, you can't see them and they can't see you, but we'll tell them that
we know they're there.
We know, yeah, we do because we're actually on.
The lights are on.
The lights are on, and
we're
coming to you.
No.
From the 70X7 studio. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a very, very special guest. Now, we've been podcasting for just a little over a year now. And this name was actually one of the very first names we threw out when we were so excited about this journey that we were going on. And when we talked about guests, this was one of the first names that came up that we wanted to have in. And so finally today, we're making that happen. We have Tom Ellsworth with us.
Thank you.
So excited to just have a conversation. Now, those of you who are listening and or viewing, if you're not from the Bloomington area, you may not know who Tom is. If you're from Bloomington, pretty sure you know who he is. But Tom, local to Bloomington, lead pastor, minister at Sherwood Oaks Christian Church for
40 years.
40 years.
Wow.
So he's a local.
Go ahead.
Minister, pastor,
no, you can say
do-gooder,
legend. No, you can say legend.
He's just, I mean, all the things. Tom is all the things.
It's okay.
So
it's okay.
So here's Tom. Here's what we want to do. So we love bringing guests in that people know them because of what they do. So like we've had Don Fisher on, and everybody knows he's the voice of the Hoosiers, right?
Yep.
And we've had John Leskowski, and everybody knows that he played basketball at IU and is now the owner and entrepreneur of Culver's locally. Right. And everybody knows what you do. You, again, are a minister and have been for the bulk of your life, probably at this point. But what we like to do is we like to talk about who you are. So like going back to like maybe your childhood, where you were born, raised, a little bit about your childhood, influences, family, things or whatever. So we're going to start there. So where were you born and raised? Were you in Indiana or were you in Illinois? I don't remember exactly where you were born and raised.
I'm a born Hoosier.
You are.
Grew up in the southern part of the state, DuBois County.
Okay.
If you know where that is.
Yeah.
And Huntingburg is my hometown, just south of Jasper. Jasper's a suburb of Huntingburg.
Yeah.
I'm sure they all agree with that.
I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Sure. Huntingburg was a wonderful place to grow up. And I just think a lot of my hometown had wonderful parents, great grandparents. I enjoyed growing up in that area, and my folks were strong in their faith, and my grandparents were strong in their faith as well.
Now, were both sets of grandparents, they were also from the Huntingburg area, or?
Well, close.
Okay.
My grandpa and grandma Ellsworth lived in Huntingburg.
Okay.
And my grandpa and grandma Connor lived down in Spencer County, just as the crow flies, about 2 to 3 miles south of Holiday World, which when I was growing up was Santa Claus Land.
Right, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so they were not too far away.
Not too far
A little
away.
bit of a road trip, but okay. And
About
so
20 minutes, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it seemed like a lot longer when you're a kid.
Yeah.
But that's all the farther.
So what was your childhood like? Like what did you do as a child? Was it a farm, or was it, were you involved in athletics, or what was your childhood like?
Okay. Well, no, we didn't grow up on a farm. My grandparents in the country had an older farm and a barn and all the kinds of good stuff. And I did raise some soybeans one time on my grandparents' farm.
Just once?
Just once.
Okay.
That was enough?
No, it was just later in the process. I was
I
in
see.
college at the time.
okay.
Very
And,
good. Very good.
you know, but I worked for a farmer in the Huntingburg area and put up hay and helped him
okay.
do some planting and that type of thing. So there's something about the farm life that, I really, really like. And, but we grew up sort of on the edge of town and had a yard that was about 2 acres. So Dad and I would spend a good portion of our Saturdays mowing, but those were
Probably a push mower.
Well, we had a push mower and we had a riding mower. And
Okay.
so one of us would use the push mower, the other would use the rider, and then next week we might switch off. But
He actually switched with you?
yeah,
Because I
Dad-
wouldn't.
Dad, yeah, yeah.
No, you're on the push mower.
I would have lost that
I'm
bet.
the, for sure. Yeah,
definitely.
You did have a great dad.
I did.
If
I
he
did.
switched off with you.
Yeah. I had a wonderful mom and dad were just terrific folks, and I like all the kids in the area. I played ball and that type of thing. But when you get into high school, you got. It wasn't like today with all the sports that are going on,
Right.
and so you kind of played one thing from one time or another, and music was a big part of my life. Back then I was in the band as well. Played a tuba.
No kidding.
Yeah, I did.
Can you still play?
I don't know. I haven't played one for a long time.
If I had known, don't think I wouldn't have brought a tuba in here.
I could get a sound out of it. I don't know if I can play a scale anymore.
Right, right.
I'm blown away because I played the tuba.
Did you?
I did.
Yeah.
Hey, chicks dig tuba players.
Really?
No, not really.
I was going to say, that's news to me.
really.
So,
No, it was a struggle. It was a struggle. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing it. It was a
lot of fun.
Awesome sound.
It really was a fun instrument to play.
Now,
And then
were you
also play the
marching
piano.
band?
I was in marching band, yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I did not know
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
So you were in band, marching band, and choir?
And choir. Yep,
Okay.
we had a great choral director at Huntingburg High School at that time, and so that really was a big help. Music teaches you so many things.
For sure.
I really am disappointed to see it sort of fading with the younger generations. Learning to play the piano has such hand and eye coordination. Learning to read music teaches you a lot of things. A lot of disciplines that go well with life. I did 4-H when I was in my teenage years. Too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have any livestock. It wasn't that kind of a thing because we didn't have a farm to raise.
Which is what's beautiful about 4-H.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You don't have to have a farm and do. A lot of people, I think that's a misconception that 4-H is farm animals, and it's not. There's so many things, welding or baking or sewing or.
I did woodworking and I did entomology.
Yes.
I was one of those kids that took the bug collections,
Yes.
and so I learned a lot about that.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
Which is part of my love of nature and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, now that's new to me because I didn't realize you can. Do you still play piano at all? I mean, do you tinker around on it at all, or can you?
Just at home.
Yeah.
Now, my wife is an outstanding pianist. Yeah, she's really good.
Yeah.
No,
Now.
that's a good transition right there, right? To how did he meet?
Yeah. So yeah.
Was
so
it your piano playing?
Yes.
Or was it your
No.
tuba
Was it
playing?
the- It was the tuba.
It wasn't the tuba playing.
Wasn't the tuba playing,
By the
okay.
time I got to college, the tuba was, and I didn't own my tuba. That was
Right.
something you rented from the school.
Sure,
Right,
sure.
right.
They had.
And I think it was $5 a year, and I don't remember them ever charging me for it. So I was the only tuba player in the band.
Oh, well,
until
they
I got
had to have you
senior
then.
year. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So then when Huntingburg High School?
Huntingburg High School until my senior year, and in the senior year we consolidated with Holland, Indiana.
Oh.
And so I was serving on the student council at that point in time, and we got to pick the new name and the new mascot and all that kind of good stuff. So
Oh,
it was
that's
kinda cool. But we only got 6 weeks in the new building. The last 6 weeks of our senior year. So in retrospect, it kind of would have been nice to have been the last graduating class of Huntingburg as opposed to the first graduating class of Southridge.
Southridge.
Right.
Okay.
That's what I was going to
okay.
say. So
I was waiting for it.
So the two schools merged and
Right.
they together got a new name. Like it
Yes.
didn't keep one or the other.
Yep.
And so it was the Southridge
Raiders.
Raiders. And is it still as such?
Southridge Raiders still. Yeah.
How about that?
That's good. It's a good school.
Yeah, it's a very good
and Holland was the Dutchman. The Huntingburg was the Happy Hunters. And the only thing we were able to keep were the colors. Holland was red and white, and we were black and red. And so just red, white, and black.
Oh,
stayed
nice.
colors,
Okay.
so.
Very nice. Yeah.
That's fun. So then once you graduated high school then, where did your path lead?
I went to St. Louis Christian College, which is in Florissant, Missouri. And that's where I met Elsie. We met in our sophomore year, and she transferred in, and then we dated for those 3 years, got married after we graduated.
Now, so when you went to college, Bible college, was that calling on your heart?
Yep.
Had you already been preaching a little bit?
No.
Was there a preacher in your family? Like, what led to that decision?
Church camp.
Oh.
During my freshman and sophomore year of high school, spending time in church camp had an incredible influence on my life. And I'd not met preachers like the men I met in church camp. The preacher in my home church was a wonderful gentleman, but I couldn't tell you anything he ever preached. It was just kind of, for a kid growing up, it was kind of boring.
Okay, right. Yeah.
And early on, that was the last thing I wanted to do, was spend my life boring people. And so ministry really wasn't on my, radar.
Right. Yeah.
But I got to church camp, and I was really challenged by the preaching and the teaching of these guys who were vibrant preachers.
That's wonderful.
And, it was the summer leading into my sophomore year, I made a decision to go into ministry. And never looked back.
So I'm sorry, I'm going to back up just a
That's
bit.
fine.
When did you give your life to Christ?
I was 12 years old.
So were you at your church, home church with your parents?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so at 12 years old, and so then, but sophomore-ish year in high school is
Correct.
when you kind of, God started leading you.
That's right.
Toward ministry.
Yep, that's right.
Okay, so then when you went to the Bible college, then how did that work? I don't know. It could be different now, but you were going to get a doctorate, or what does that look like for preaching, or was it an English major, or you know what I'm saying? How does that work?
Yeah, it varies from your church background or your denomination. Every group has their own sort of setup, the way they want that done. In our independent Christian churches, the 4 years of undergraduate are training in ministry. And then you go on and get master's or something of that afterwards. In a lot of situations, you go and you get a degree from a university, and then you go on to seminary from there, and that's where you get your ministerial training. But ours actually starts as a freshman in college, and so I had 4 years of training, and then went on to seminary and got my master's after that. So
okay, so how does that work? While you're in college, did they teach you how to get up and preach?
Oh, sure.
Really?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, 2 weeks after I enroll in St. Louis Christian College, in the August of 1973, it would have been in the fall of 1973. 2 weeks after I'm there, I think, I can be a youth minister. So I applied for some part-time youth ministries, just on the weekend, and I got a church that hired me in Pontoon Beach, Church of Christ in Illinois, just right across the river from St. Louis, and I was there for 2 years, and then I took a ministry. I was preaching every other Sunday with one of my college professors at Ferguson, First Christian Church of Ferguson, Missouri, which was only about a 10-minute drive from the school, and so all 4 years of my time at St. Louis, I was doing something practically in ministry.
In the pulpit. That's awesome.
That would be.
That's awesome. All right. So we're going to take a quick break here, but we're going to come back and hear the special moment that you met Elsie, and who, if you had to, was it pulling teeth to get her to go out with you? I don't know. Just hang on. We'll be back. We'll be back.
All right.
We'll be right back after this quick break with Tom Ellsworth.
For Good Reasons Roofing, the number 4, goodreasons.com. They want to be your local hometown roofing specialist. Whether it's hail damage, storm damage, worn out, just plain old damage, or maybe it's new construction. Whatever your 4 reasons are to have a new roof, their 4 good reasons are honesty, integrity, quality, and kindness. For Good Reasons Roofing. Give them a call, 812-360-4469. They will come and give you a free inspection and a transparent quote. You will be completely satisfied because the owner, Tony Pulliam, would not let it be anything less than your satisfaction. So look for them at forgoodreasons.com, the number 4, goodreasons.com, or call them today, 812-360-4469. 4 Good Reasons Roofing, your local hometown roofing specialist.
Let your local Farmers Insurance agent Christine Flynn put her experience to work for you. Christine Flynn proudly serves Monroe, Lawrence, and Greene County families and businesses and is ready to review your existing policies or provide a no-obligation quote today. Call Christine Flynn at 812-822-2905 to get smarter about your insurance. Again, that's Christine Flynn at 812-822-2905. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two.
We are farmers. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum.
Underwritten by Farmers Truck Fire Insurance Exchanges and Affiliates. Products not available in every state.
All right, we are back with our very special guest, Tom Ellsworth. And so you left off. You're in college, sophomore year now. Elsie, what was her maiden name?
Barrow. Barrow.
Okay, so Elsie Barrow comes on the scene. And was she also sophomore? Were you in the same class?
We were in the same class. She transferred in after her freshman year at Southern Illinois.
Okay, and so
Salukis.
do you remember the first time y'all saw each other? Or
I do,
okay.
absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right, let's go. Let's hear it.
I met her that day in the building and asked her out that night.
Wow.
Yeah.
You didn't waste any time there.
I did not.
Yeah,
No.
I don't blame
And
you.
she graciously said yes to go out.
Very nice.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Now, what was she there at that particular college to study?
she studied Christian education, and
Oh.
then when we moved to Bloomington, transferred those credits to IU and became a teacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
know that.
I didn't know that
How
either.
about that? Did she teach in the area?
She did. She taught music at Unionville for a number of years.
God, that's out there in God's country.
What? Great.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I had no
Taught
idea.
until she retired from.
I did not know that. That's
Very nice.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She-
So where? I mean, like, did you just walk into the room and there she was, or how did you end up?
We actually, kind of passed her, met in the hallway. It wasn't in a room, and we just got to visiting a little bit. And then later on that evening, I asked her out. So we had like an opening convocation that night, and afterwards I asked her if she wanted to go out I think we went to Shoney's for a Coke. So
That's
Love
awesome.
it.
So
Love it.
from that point to engagement and marriage, how long did you wait? You waited till you got out of college?
we
or?
were engaged during our senior year, and then we waited till we graduated before we actually got married. So we graduated in May and got married in June.
Oh, okay. And so then, then you came straight to Bloomington?
We actually stayed in the St. Louis area for another year. She worked as a secretary for the president of the college. And then I continued on preaching at the church in Ferguson. And it was still every other Sunday. And I finally reached a point where I thought I need to be out preaching every Sunday. And so came back to Southern Indiana. And after a stint in a small town down south, got the call to come to Sherwood Oaks and started in.
So-
in 1981 is when we moved to Bloomington.
Okay, so
January.
what did that look like? So when Sherwood Oaks called you in 1981, they were still at the little building on Winslow?
Yes.
And who was it somebody retiring, or like whose shoes were you filling, so to speak?
I didn't know the gentleman who had been there previously, and he had left.
Okay.
I mean, so, I don't have a lot of history of his tenure and that type of thing, other than the fact that they had an empty pulpit to fill,
Right.
and they'd contacted me. And actually, Lois Stevens, who some of you may know Lois, she had asked if I'd be interested, and I said, yeah, I might do that. And so submitted a resume, and when the elders came to listen to me preach, and one thing led to another, and I said, yeah, I'll take the.
Now, is it the Lois Stevens? Did she cut your hair? Is it that Lois Stevens? Okay,
No.
it might be another one I was thinking of. Okay.
I don't know that other Lois Stevens.
Okay. Okay. So
I could use it.
But yeah, right. Carter's our resident
Barber.
Oh, okay.
So,
That's
yeah,
right. All right.
Yep. Okay, so very good. So now we're in Bloomington.
Yep.
1981.
1981.
And did you and Elsie have kids yet?
Nope.
Oh, okay. So you started your family here and everything.
We did.
So how did talk a little bit about those first years? Having your, I don't want to say your own church. Obviously, we know it's
Right.
Jesus
right.
Church.
I know
but
what
you know
you're
what I
saying.
mean. Yeah.
I know what you mean. So being
your first flock.
yeah. And so from that standpoint, I was starting from with 80 people that were there, and they weren't meeting budget at the time, but there was just a wonderful group of people. They'd kind of weathered some storms, but this group that was there were determined. They didn't want those doors to close. They were going to, keep those doors open at all costs, and they worked hard. And we just kind of, church and ministries in many ways is like a marriage. There's got to be compatibility between whoever's preaching and whoever's in the congregation. And congregations have personalities like people do, and they have traditions and they have different things. And there has to be a good melding together, to make it work. And this was just one of those really wonderful relationships. And so not everything, nothing is perfect. There is no such thing as a perfect congregation. There's not a perfect preacher. There's not perfect people. You can't take imperfect people and make a perfect church. You just can't.
Right.
So there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be disappointments. There's going to be frustrations. But for the most part, it's just been a wonderful journey.
Good.
A quick question.
Yeah. Go
I
ahead.
remember seeing a picture of you, and you had a tie, and they had scissors.
Yeah.
Was that a ceremony that was a tradition at Sherwood Oaks, or was that?
It sort of was, but I didn't know anything about it.
So describe the picture.
The picture is of one of the elders cutting off my tie on a Sunday morning, one of the leaders. And that happened to be on Easter Sunday of that first year.
Okay.
And we'd had 209 people, and so that set an attendance record. And their tradition had been, anytime there was a new attendance record set, you cut off the preacher's tie. So
just because,
okay. I don't know where it came from. I don't know anything about the heritage of it, but that's what they had done.
So,
I'm guessing you lost a lot of ties over the years.
I lost a couple ties, and then and of course that first Sunday that happened, if I had known that was the tradition, I'd have thought we might broke it. I'd worn a different tie.
Yeah, because I bet they cut your favorite tie on Easter Sunday.
Right.
So we had a couple of those tiebreakers, literally, and the cutting. And I decided, you know what, this treat needs to be shared. And I said, I think the elders need to participate.
Right.
And so we went for a few times with that, and then we decided, it's just too costly.
Right.
And
so nice ties aren't cheap.
Right. They're not.
That's exactly right.
Right.
So
that's when you wear the Christmas tie your kids give you.
Yeah, even on Easter.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
So, so then at 81's when you came and you're helping to build the church, the girls come along, Rebecca and Emily, and then, so how long were you in that building before Sherwood Oaks, the big one, was built?
Okay, all right.
And what did that whole process look like?
Okay, so Emily was born in 83, Rebecca was born in 85, and we added on to the front of the building in 87 because we'd run out of room. We'd bought an extra acre of ground, which was all we could get, and we were still landlocked. We thought that would. And as the church continued to grow, we went to multiple services to try and handle everything. And then in September of 91, we had a church fire. And that changed a whole lot of things. We had just purchased the 20 acres where the church is located currently. Church building is located currently. And we were planning on moving sometime in the future. And that's really an interesting story. We had a group staying in the church basement with Habitat for Humanity. They'd come to town. They were staying that night in the church building. And they were being, as people are, just having a good time. And one of the guys was tired. He wanted to sleep. And so he went upstairs and slept in the fellowship hall and saw flickering lights on the outside of building through the the frosted windows, and went outside to look, and the whole side of the building is on fire. So he got everybody out of the basement. What could have been an absolute
I was going to say
tragedy, turned out to be okay.
Yeah.
And
wow.
yeah,
know that.
I mean, it was it was one of those things that God was behind.
God
it.
totally was in that.
Took care of all of that, and so I get a call about 2:00 in the morning. Hurry over to the building, and the fire department ends up coming and all that kind of stuff. And so early in the morning, this is one of my favorite stories. Early in the morning, we're standing out there, a whole group of people from the church, and you're feeling helpless because there's nothing you can do other than just watch it. Right. And the fire is burning over where the offices are, and the roof just collapses in on the offices. And and I'm at this point, I just said sort of mournfully, I said, well, every sermon I've ever written is going up in smoke right now. And Ralph Haycraft was standing right next to me, and Ralph said, well, good.
That was a real icebreaker.
And he said, maybe we'll hear something new for a change. Well, there was
He was looking at the positive
Yeah, he was
side.
looking at the positive side of it. And there was this ripple of laughter that just went up and down that line. I'm nearly on the ground and, laughing so hard. And that was the turning point.
Yeah.
That was the turning point, because then we realized we're going to get through this.
Yeah.
It's a building.
Right.
It's a tool. It's a wonderful tool.
Right.
But it's not the church.
Wow.
And Jim Bowen, and both Ralph and Jim are at home with the Lord now, but Jim Bowen was in charge of putting our messages on the signboard, every week. Mm-hmm. And that evening, Jim put these words, or something like this. He said, the building is destroyed, but the church is just fine.
Oh, yes.
And that became, the rally cry of our hearts.
I love that.
Yeah. And so we decided we weren't going to rebuild there. There wasn't any reason to, and it just forced us to go ahead on up and build on the 20 acres. So that was how we got up to that piece of property.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think so many people, Tom, even believers, and I'll include myself in this, really, until the last few years, we don't understand that we're the church.
Right.
Not the
people.
building.
Yeah.
The people are the body of Christ, and we're the church. And I think
the building is a great tool.
Yes.
We'd be hard to do ministry
Sure.
in many ways without it, but it's not the church. It's just a building.
Yeah, I love that. That's so awesome. Goodness gracious. Yeah. So how long of a process, where did you meet? I guess I should go there first. Where did you meet in the interim?
Mike Riggle was the principal at Bloomington South at that time.
Okay.
And Mike was also attending at Sherwood Oaks, and so we asked, is there any possibility we could use the auditorium at South on Sundays? And the school system allowed us to do that. I will be forever grateful.
Oh, yes.
So for 2 years, we met on Sunday mornings, setting up and
I did
tearing
not know
down.
that.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And that was a great partnership with the school system. They were gracious and helpful.
That's wonderful that
it really
that
was.
opportunity was available.
It really was.
And so was it a 2-year process to
It was
get the new building built?
Yeah. Well, and of course, we built it in phases. So the first phase was a fellowship hall and some classrooms and the basement where we had the offices. And so we met in the fellowship hall for about 7 years, which you guys remember that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's another story. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how many times did that particular building get added on to over the years? Do you know? I mean, was there a lot of...
There was the original building, then we built the worship center, then there was the garage that was built off to the side,
back.
then there was the educational building with gymnasium that went out the back, and then the last thing was we built that connecting entrance that tied in that building. So that would have been five processes before we got it all done.
Yeah. Wow. And so you, from 81 until 21.
Almost 21, yeah. From January of 81 to August of 20. I was in my 40th year.
Yeah. That's right, August.
So, but really, technically, I was kind of on staff through the end of the year, but, had already stepped away so Sean could step into that role.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Awesome.
Chad's Express Lube and Car Care Center is the place that you need to go to keep your car running in perfect order. On the outside chance your car is not running in perfect order, Chad's has a shop over on State Road 46 in Ellisville that'll give you a free estimate and reasonable rates and get your car back on the road. Now, to keep it that way, you need to hightail it over to Chad's Express Lube and Car Care Center located at 1357 South Liberty Drive. You know exactly where that is. That's just right around the corner from Menards. Now, check this out. Every 7th oil change is free. That's right. Absolutely free. I don't think you can get any better than that. Chad's Express Lube and Car Care Center, 1357 South Liberty Drive in Bloomington.